My name is Morgan. Today I want to tell you my story about how one decision in a conference room ended my career at Westbrook Bioworks, and why that was the best thing that could have happened. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and comment below, where are you watching from? Claire stood at the head of the table, saying the words effective immediately like she was dropping a final verdict. I kept my hands steady on the conference table and told her I hoped the Norcrest Technologies pitch at the end of the week went well. The silence was heavy. My team, people I'd recruited, mentored, and promoted, stared at the table. Claire, early 30s and fresh from a graduate degree at a prestigious university, had been here just 3 months. She had never worked a day in biotech. "What do you mean?" she asked. I gave her a small smile. "You'll figure it out. In my office, I packed more than 2 decades into 2 cardboard boxes, photos from product launches, awards from grateful clients, and the best dad ever mug from Lily." Claire lingered in the doorway like she was about to speak, then asked about the Norcrest account. "That's no longer my concern," I said, sealing the first box. One by one, my team came by. No speeches, just firm handshakes. Julia stayed the longest. "This isn't right," she whispered. I told her it was business, though both of us knew better. I'd seen this coming. Since day one, Claire had been undercutting me, holding meetings without me, questioning my calls in front of clients. Last week, she'd pitched upper management on the idea that my old-school approach was holding us back. What she didn't know was that I'd been keeping detailed notes, every slight, every move to edge me out. Years in client partnerships teach you to prepare for every scenario. I drove home with the boxes in my truck. Sarah was waiting with coffee, her eyes saying she already knew. "How bad?" she asked. "Could be worse." But sitting there in the kitchen, I felt something sharper than anger. Claire had made a serious mistake, one she wouldn't understand until Norcrest called looking for the presentation only I could deliver. I'd started at Westbrook right after college when Robert Hanley still ran the place. We were small but hungry, and he'd taken a chance on me. I learned everything: labs, regulations, client psychology. By 30, I was leading the department. During the late 2000s downturn, our competitors folded while we thrived because clients trusted me. Sarah had supported it all, the late-night calls, weekend flights, while raising Lily. We built something that mattered and kept 63 people working. But that changed when Robert retired. Victor, his son, brought in consultants who spoke in buzzwords and saw employees as numbers. Claire was one of them. She showed up to meetings unprepared, disrupted presentations, reorganized my systems without asking, and started calling my top clients to check satisfaction. 3 weeks ago, I caught her telling corporate my methods were outdated, promising she could get the same results with half the cost, which meant cutting my people, like Julia or Eric, who'd gone the extra mile to master client needs. I didn't challenge her. I focused on Norcrest, a $28 million deal for specialized biosensors. I'd spent several months understanding their team, their requirements, their personalities. Claire thought she could charm her way through with a generic deck. She didn't know their head of technology hated formal pitches, or that their procurement chief only trusted precise, technical language. She had fired me to look decisive. But by the end of the week, when Norcrest asked for Morgan, she would learn the difference between running numbers and earning trust. That night, I couldn't sleep, not from dread, but from the thought of what was about to happen. In the early hours of the morning, Sarah found me in the kitchen, coffee in hand, already planning my next move. I sat at the kitchen table with coffee and my laptop open. "You're working on something," Sarah said. "Just thinking." She knew me well enough after over 20 years to recognize when to press and when to let silence do the work. "Claire called earlier," I finally said. 3 voicemails. "What did she want?" "Details for the Norcrest presentation." Sarah smiled faintly. She'd seen the nights, weekends, and endless calls it took to build those relationships. "And you told her?" "Nothing. I'm not her employee anymore." That's when it hit me. Claire hadn't just fired me. She'd erased over a decade of hard-earned knowledge, every client's quirks, technical specs, and the small interactions that made them trust me. Norcrest wasn't about slides. It was about knowing their head of technology wanted diagrams, not charts, and that their CEO based decisions on delivery speed, not savings. Claire thought she could improvise her way through a $28 million pitch. The detailed breakdown they were expecting existed only in my head, and in one blue notebook. My notebook. I checked my calendar. Norcrest was mid-morning on the weekend. By the hour after, Claire would be in Victor's office explaining why their biggest prospect had walked. My phone buzzed. Julia texted, "Claire's been in your office all day digging for files. She looks desperate." I replied, "Everything's on the server." True enough. Contracts, contact info, templates, but none of the human context that made those documents matter. I started drafting a formal resignation, then deleted it. Why make her exit clean? Instead, I emailed a few long-time contacts. By morning, I had 3 interview offers and 1 job prop. Ozil. At sunrise, Sarah found me dressed and ready. Heading out? Millstone Cafe, good Wi-Fi, quiet enough for calls. She kissed my forehead. "Show them what you can do." I wasn't out for revenge. I was letting Claire handle that herself. By mid-morning, I was sipping coffee at Millstone when my phone lit up. Claire. I let it ring. Then again. And again. By the 7th missed call, Julia rang. "Morgan, where are you? Norcrest is here and Claire's panicking. She can't find the specs they want." "They're in the system." "She says they're not. She's been searching all night." "Check the project folder. Norcrest, technical requirements." Pause. "Morgan, it's empty except for basic contacts." "That's because the specs were never digitized. They're in my blue notebook." "The one you took home yesterday?" "The one I took home yesterday." Julia's voice dropped. "They're asking for you. The head of technology wants to discuss your calibration protocols." I wish I could help. Soon after, Victor called. "Morgan, I need you here. This is a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. I was let go. Effective immediately, remember?" "Maybe Claire moved too fast. Name your rate." "I'm not available. I had a phone interview with Arcadia Biotech in a few hours." By late morning, Julia texted. Norcrest gave Claire 20 minutes to produce the documents. She couldn't, so they left, saying they'd reassess. At noon, Claire called again. "You have to help me. This is sabotage." "No, these are consequences. I can report you for withholding company data. I removed my personal property. The notebooks were mine, bought with my money. Company files are still on the server." "That's not how this works." "Actually, it's exactly how it works. Terminated without cause means no obligation." She hung up. 10 minutes later, security called demanding my notebooks. I told them to read my contract. By early afternoon, Sarah rang, laughing. "Lily just messaged me. Claire's on a professional networking site talking about exciting new opportunities at Westbrook." "How's that spin going?" "3 of your old clients have already asked where you went." Word travels fast in biotech. By mid-afternoon, after a strong phone interview with Arcadia Biotech, I had my answer to Claire's earlier accusation about sabotage. This wasn't sabotage. Sabotage meant I'd tried to hurt them. I hadn't lifted a finger. All I'd done was take my knowledge with me when they pushed me out. The truth was simple. Claire never bothered to learn how the department actually ran. Firing the one person who knew every nuance of their top accounts, that was her call. I'd spent over a decade building something of value. She'd managed to gut it in under 20 minutes. Now she was discovering just how costly that ignorance was. A text from Julia flashed on my phone. Norcrest called. They want to know if you'll take on freelance work. They're furious with Westbrook's lack of preparation. I replied, I'm not available, but they might want to speak to Arcadia Biotech. Sometimes the easiest revenge is stepping aside and letting the avalanche roll on its own. The next morning, Eric from the Harborview team called. Morgan, I should have told you this earlier, he began. Go ahead. Claire's been calling our overseas clients, not to build relationships, but to dig for contract terms, renewal dates, pricing, stuff she could have gotten from our files. The picture sharpened. What else? She asked me for copies of all my client emails, said it was for quality assurance. When I told her everything was in the client database, she insisted on getting the originals. A cold realization settled in. Did you send them? No, but Morgan, I think she was trying to build a case against you. Something to say you lied, or hiding information or mismanaging accounts. It made sense. The sudden interest in my process, the questions about my client ties. She hadn't been learning. She'd been trying to replace me with paperwork she could control. Eric went on. After the Norcrest disaster, she called an emergency meeting, told everyone you'd withheld information to sabotage the company. Julia shut her down, reminded everyone you'd offered to train her on every account. She'd refused, saying traditional methods were too time-consuming for modern business. I remembered that weekend I'd spent preparing training binders, detailed profiles, preferences, technical specs, only for Claire to skim them and toss the idea aside. What's the mood there? I asked. Tense. Victor called an all-hands for the start of the week. Word is he's bringing in outside consultants to deal with the client relations mess. After Eric hung up, I sat with the realization that Claire's move hadn't been rash. It had been in the works for weeks. The Norcrest pitch was supposed to be her proof of concept. Success would have justified letting me go. Instead, it revealed just how unprepared she was. The phone rang again. Arcadia Biotech. Morgan, this is Michelle Lee. We'd like to schedule an in-person interview for the start of the week. We've been watching Westbrook's recent changes, and frankly, we're concerned. Several partners have mentioned disruptions in client service. We need someone who knows how to build relationships that last. After the call, it hit me. Claire had done me a favor. I'd been comfortable for too long at Westbrook. Good pay, steady work, trusted clients, but I'd stopped growing. I'd been so busy maintaining what I'd built that I'd forgotten there were still places left to build. Later, Sarah found me in the garage, sorting tools I hadn't touched in years. Productive day? She asked. Enlightening, I said. I've got an interview with Arcadia Biotech on Monday, I told Sarah. 20% more salary and an ownership stake. That's great, she said, but you don't sound excited. I set down the wrench I'd been holding. I keep thinking about Julia, Eric, the rest of the team. They're good people stuck in Claire's mess. You can't save everyone, Morgan, she reminded me. You can only control your next step. She was right. Claire had made her choices. She'd live with the fallout. My job was to make better ones. That Monday, I put on my best suit and headed to Arcadia Biotech's downtown Riverford office. The interview went even better than I'd hoped. By noon, they offered me the Director of Client Partnerships role, 25% more pay, full benefits, and a signing bonus big enough to cover Lily's education fund for 2 years. I accepted without hesitation. Walking out, I felt lighter. It wasn't the paycheck. It was the possibilities. Arcadia was expanding fast, securing contracts with major pharmaceutical companies and academic research institutions. They wanted someone who knew how to build client relationships that last. That was me. A text from Julia popped up. Westbrook's stock just fell 3%. Word about Norcrest is spreading. I wasn't shocked. Reputation in biotech moves faster than press releases. Lose one key client, and the rest start asking questions. Claire's modernization was looking more like incompetence. The next day, Mid-State Business Review ran a short piece. Norcrest Technologies had awarded their biosensor project to Arcadia Biotech, the same $28 million deal I'd nurtured for several months. By Wednesday, Eric called from Harborview. Victor fired Claire yesterday, effective immediately. How's everyone holding up? Relieved, but rumor is another outside consultant's coming in to improve efficiency. I hesitated. Eric, are you happy there? A long pause. Not really. Why? Arcadia's expanding internationally. They need someone with your background and language skills. Are you serious? I start Monday. If you want in, I'll set up an interview. The following day, Michelle Lee called with another idea. Morgan, we're considering launching a life sciences consulting group. We'd need someone to head it up. Deep industry knowledge, existing relationships. Do you know anyone who'd fit? I thought immediately of Julia. Brilliant with regulatory compliance, passed over for promotion 3 times under Claire. I might. By Friday afternoon, I was back at Millstone Cafe, the same place I'd watched Claire's downfall a week earlier, this time meeting Julia. I can't believe what you're offering, she said. Believe it. Arcadia wants you as founding director, full control, great salary, the chance to build something new. What about Eric? Already accepted. Starts Monday as International Business Development Manager. She hesitated. Victor offered me your old job yesterday, head of client relations. You taking it? I was, until now. Westbrook will survive, but it'll take years to rebuild. Arcadia's moving forward now. Do you want to build something new or fix something broken? She smiled, maybe for the first time since I'd left. When do I start? By week's end, Arcadia had hired 3 former Westbrook employees, not by poaching, but by offering opportunity. We weren't running from something. We were running towards something better. Claire had taught us all a lesson. There's a world of difference between managing people and leading them. We'd learned the difference between leading and just managing, and now we were putting it to work. 3 months later, I sat in Arcadia Biotech's expanded conference room with Michelle Lee and the executive team, going over quarterly results. The numbers spoke for themselves. The Life Sciences Consulting Group was up 200%, international contracts had climbed 150%, and client satisfaction was the highest in company history. Morgan, your team has exceeded every projection, Michelle said. The Norcrest implementation alone has brought in 5 new contract requests. Across the table, Julia, now director of the consulting group, smiled. Regulatory approval went smoother than anyone thought. When clients see that level of efficiency, word spreads. On the screen, Eric joined Harborview, in the middle of closing a deal with a major research hospital. International expansion's ahead of schedule. We're targeting 3 more markets next quarter. That afternoon, an email arrived from Victor. He wanted to meet. We chose Millstone Cafe, fitting, since it was where I'd watched Claire's world unravel. Victor looked older, worn down. Morgan, I owe you an apology. I made a huge mistake with Claire. How's Westbrook holding up? We're surviving. Lost 4 major clients after Norcrest, laid off 15 people, stocks still down. Claire cost us more than accounts. She took years of institutional knowledge with her. You can rebuild. Maybe, but it won't be the same. I've heard about your success at Arcadia, the consulting group, the international expansion. That should have been ours. Would you come back? Take the vice president of business strategy role. Full control over client relations and business development. I'm happy where I am. I'll double your salary. It's not about money. He leaned back. Then what? Trust. When you brought in Claire, you chose efficiency over relationships, and you believed experience could be replaced. That was your choice. I was wrong. Yes, but the damage is done. Clients don't trust Westbrook. Your people don't trust leadership, and I don't trust you not to repeat it. He left without finishing his coffee. Watching him go, I felt something unexpected. Pity. 6 months after I'd been shown the door, Arcadia acquired the consulting arms of 3 smaller biotech firms, becoming the largest independent practice in the Midwest. I was named Executive Vice President of Strategic Growth. The announcement made the front page of Mid-State Business Review, noting my departure from Westbrook had come just before their decline. Claire's profile on a professional networking site showed she'd joined a Portland startup, touting her skills in organizational transformation. No mention of Westbrook, or what that transformation had cost. The irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to prove relationships didn't matter, she'd destroyed the very ones that kept the company competitive. In trying to show experience was replaceable, she'd erased the expertise that made them valuable. Julia and Eric thrived in their new roles. The team we'd built at Arcadia was everything Claire claimed modern business should be: efficient, profitable, results-driven, but grounded in mutual respect and shared knowledge, not corporate buzzwords. Last week, Lily called from college. "Dad, my business professor used your story as a case study on institutional knowledge. She called it the Westbrook mistake." "What'd you tell her?" "That my dad always said success is the best answer." Sarah was right, as always. You can't save everyone, only decide your own next move. 6 months later, Westbrook's board forced Victor out after failed acquisitions and mounting losses. Claire's Portland startup folded within 8 months, leaving her explaining the gap on her resume to skeptical employers. Her organizational transformation had become a caudy, honorary tale taught in business schools nationwide, and I never had to throw a punch.